So what is the state of the debate? Let's ask Chief Strategist and Communications Director for the RNC, Sean Spicer, who's in Washington this morning. Sean, this must be enormously stressful for you and your party. You've got candidates, governors, businesswomen, successful people who probably aren't going to make it on the stage in 10 or 11 days.
Well, I will correct something you said. I mean, first, we do have the most largest number of quality candidates that either party's ever had in history, so we're very proud of that. But I think both Fox and CNN should be commended for the fact that it's not just 10 that are going to make the stage. All of those top 16 are going to be on the stage. They're just not going to be on it together. There's going to be two different segments in each case. So for all those people who say let them debate, they will all debate. The first 10 will be on one stage and the other 6 will be on another.
But I think that 6 are going to be at the kiddie table, the losers debate. I mean, Fox is going to put the other 6 on at 5 in the afternoon while the leading candidates get prime time. You can't pretend like they're all going to get the same treatment.
No, but I think that's just not how the world works. You cannot fit 16 people on a stage. So I think both CNN and Fox have gone the extra step. I mean, the most number of people that have ever been on a debate stage in history of either party is 10. Fox and CNN not only matched that, but went the extra step and said we'll have a second debate for the other 6 that are in the top. I think that's, I think that is a huge step. It's a big, big deal. There's 114 people running for the Republican nomination right now, Brian. And I think when you look at trying to figure out how do you accommodate just the top 16, both of these two networks have done an extremely good job of being as inclusive as possible.
Did you just say 114 people?
Not only has there's 114 people registered with the Federal Election Commission seeking the Republican nomination, but another interesting for you is that as of when that debate happens, there will have been 28 candidate forums around the country for all of these folks to get and talk to voters directly. Right. From CPAC to Citizens United to the Sirius XM one that we're having at our summer meeting. There are 25 of these ranging from New Hampshire and Iowa and Florida and South Carolina where people have been able to sit down, talk to these candidates directly, one-on-one, get tons of free media coverage. So there's been a lot of interaction with voters leading up to this first debate as well.
For sure. These network debates do matter most, though, and I do wonder what you think of this. Is it the party's fault that so many people are running? Shouldn't the Republican Party have tried to manage or shape this race so you didn't have 16 people in the race?
I think the last thing anybody wants is anyone in Washington telling them who should be running and who shouldn't be running.
Well, touche to that. Let me play a soundbite for you from Lindsey Graham. He's one of the candidates that seems like he'll be excluded from this Fox debate. Here's what he says about it.
I'm curious as to what you think about potentially not having a place in the debates. We had a pretty interesting conversation with...
I think it sucks.
Yeah.
I think it sucks. I think, well, the RNC is not, they're not helpless here. The bottom line is I think the criteria in July of 2015 makes no sense. You're testing celebrity and name ID. Give us all a chance early on to make our case. I'm not worried about how you manage a TV debate. I'm worried about how you pick a nominee.
Sean, what's your response to Lindsey Graham?
Well, with all due respect to Senator Graham, he is going to be on stage. And I think under normal historical guidelines, he wouldn't have had an opportunity to get on a debate stage. But thanks to both Fox and CNN, all of those top 16s, including Senator Graham, will have an opportunity to be on a stage and debate.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, kind of, right? I mean, when you split them up like this, people think it just gives them much treatment. But
right,
I hear what you're saying.
Brian,
they will get a chance
right, and
on
I think you have to look at the alternative, which is to say, okay, if you're in 15th or 16th place, the odds of you ever making a debate stage in prior to this cycle were 0. So when you're at, that number in the polls, normally you'd get nothing. And I think that's where people have to stop and remember. Sometimes, yeah, if you're 15 or 16, sure, you want to be up there with number 1 and number 2. I get that. But at some point, number 1 and number 2 have a right to say, hey, we have a right to debate among the top folks as well. So, I think people have to remember, all 16 candidates will debate in both the first debate in August on Fox and the September debate on CNN. And I think that is something to keep in mind because the alternative is get nothing.
Let me ask you about somebody you probably don't want to talk about, Donald Trump. Am I right about that, by the way? I mean, are you comfortable talking about the leading candidate? Really?
Absolutely.
Because Well, I asked because, you know, there was a lot of talk a couple weeks ago about RNC chairman talking to Trump. There was a lot of debate about what happened. It doesn't seem like the GOP's, the RNC's been in touch with Trump much ever since. And last week, you put out a statement about the John McCain comments, really condemning Trump for saying what he said about John McCain. I guess I wonder if you're in a really difficult position when it comes to the leading Republican candidate for president right now.
Well, I would say that both myself, our chief of staff, a lot of our top staff, and the chairman, obviously, are in constant interaction with all of the campaigns. So that will continue. But with respect to Senator McCain, I think what it came down to was us clarifying our position on how we felt about one of our previous nominees and his war record. And that's all the statement did, is reflect the statement that we believe that Senator McCain served extremely honorably and that he is a war hero, and there was no question about it.
Let me play a portion of CNN's interview, Jake Tapper's interview with Rick Perry earlier this morning, because it's the latest example of another candidate criticizing Donald Trump. Here's what Rick Perry said.
As he has come forward, as we've got to see the real Donald Trump, I've got some real problems with that. I think that what he is saying and what he is doing is not necessarily moving the cause of conservatism forward.
How does the Republican National Committee feel about these candidates going at each other, ridiculing each other, in Donald Trump's case, insulting other candidates?
Well, look, I think a couple things. One, we have to keep our eye on the prize. If Hillary Clinton is being coronated as a Democratic nominee, we need to remember that that is who our focus needs to be on. I understand it's going to be the nature of any primary for folks to discuss the differences between themselves on policy issues, and I think that's fine. The name calling, however, needs to stop. We've got to remember what Ronald Reagan taught us, his 11th commandment, that thou shalt not speak ill of another Republican. All of the name calling, what Chairman Priebus said the other night, is that has got to stop. We've got to remember where our focus is. But
see, that's why I surmised that you might be uncomfortable talking about Donald Trump, because he keeps the name calling going on Twitter, at the press conferences and the speeches. What is wrong with candidates attacking one another? I mean, that's what politics is, and any sense that this is nastier than anything else in American history is not a student of American history. Why not let the process play out? Why not let the attacks continue?
Well, again, we're not here to play traffic cop, but I think we can remind people about what it's going to take to win. Our #1 goal is to win the White House back. And I think part of it is to say, you guys can do what you want. It's a free country. There is a part of a primary where candidates discuss back and forth why their policies or positions or experience is better than another. I understand that. The chairman understands that. But I think that we have to remember that calling each other names is not exactly helpful in the long-term goal.
So you're looking ahead. You're looking past all these debates, looking past these primaries, already looking to the general election.
I am. As hard as that is some days, that's always where the prize is.